Krishna, very dear devotees, welcome back again to our ongoing series on the glories of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pastrita Deshatarne. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, I'm happy to be back, having recently had COVID. Like so many devotees and actually millions of people around the world, as many of you have experienced, COVID can be a painful ordeal. So I spent as much time as I could reading and hearing more about Vrindavan's pastimes, Vrindavan Leela, as advised in the Srimad Bhagavatam to free oneself from suffering. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:114, we hear, quote, Osana Brigu, Shranaka Rishi, after Shukadev Goswami, the most respectable devotee, the son of Vyasadeva, heard the pious questions of Maharaj Parikshit, he thanked the king with great respect. Then he began to discourse on topics concerning Krishna, which are the remedy for all sufferings in this age of Kali, unquote. So keeping in touch with Krishna is the way to free ourselves from all suffering. And because Krishna lives eternally in Vrindavan, either by living here or by discussing the glories of Vrindavan in far off places like Sydney or London, New York, or Alachua, Florida, one can remain in contact with Krishna and be free from anxiety, stress, and suffering. And that is one reason that we've been discussing the glories of Braj for, well over 2 years now. And I was reading the other day that in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it was 1.2.213, Srila Rupa Goswami actually describes 9 specific ways that one can remain in constant touch with Braj, with Vrindavan, from anywhere in the world. He writes, Shruta, Smrita, Kirtita, Cha, Vaschita, Prekshita, Gata, Sprishta, Shrita, Seviti, Cha, Mathura, Pishtada, Nuninam. And this is the translation. Quote, Mathura Vrindavan bestows all of one's desires when she, meaning Mathura Vrindavan, is Shruta, heard about, Smrita, remembered, Kirtita, glorified, Vaschita, desired for residence, to live there, Prekshita, even seen from a distance, Gata, actually attained, or Sprishta, just touched, or Shrita, taken shelter of, and Sevita, served. And in Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary to this particular verse, he writes, quote, the word prekshita, I think that's number 6, means seeing Vrindavan from a distance, or going near to it without direct contact. And he writes that number 9, Shrita, means accepting Vrindavan as one's shelter or a residence. And he also mentions number 10, Sevita. He says Sevita means serving Vrindavan by cleaning it, beautifying it, and repairing old temples. I thought that was really interesting. Sevita means serving Vrindavan by cleaning it, beautifying it, and repairing old temples. So as members of this great international society for Krishna consciousness, we should all hanker to live in Vrindavan constantly, by either residing here or just by continuously hearing about Vrindavan and all the pastimes that take place in that transcendental abode. Sri Rupa Goswami says you can either live here or not live here, but if Vrindavan's in your heart, you're in Vrindavan. He says in he writes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.294, famous verse, Krishnam smaran janam chasya preshnam nija samihitam tat kataratascha kuryad vasham sada. The devotee should always think of Krishna within himself and should choose a very dear devotee who is a servitor of Krishna in Vrindavan. One should constantly engage in topics about that servitor and his loving relationship with Krishna. And one should live in Vrindavan. If one is physically unable to go to Vrindavan, he should mentally live there. He should mentally live there. We've mentioned this verse so many times in our series. And if we, as members of ISKCON, can truly imbibe this instruction, then when someone asks us, where do you live? We won't say Sydney, London, New York, or Alachua, Florida. We'll say, I live in Vrindavan. I live in Vrindavan. How can we say that? Because there's that famous axiom, home is where the heart is. So how do you fall in love with Vrindavan? How do you fall in love with anyone? By association. It's not that, that you fall in love immediately, true love. It takes time to get to know someone and appreciate them, have affection and then love. It's the same with Braj. If we can't live here, such as I'm very fortunate for the last 2 years, we can be in Vrindavan by constantly hearing Vrindavan Leela. Essentially means the pastimes of Radha and Krsna, Krishna Balaram, different devotees in Braj. And if we're fortunate to live here, either physically or by mentally residing here, nothing could be better than that. In the Padma Purana, I found a verse. It's in the Patala Kanda section, where Lord Shiva says to Parvati, Oho Madhu Puri Dhanya Yatra Chishtari Kam Saha Tatra Deva Muni Sarve Vasam Ichanti Sarvada. He says to Parvati, Aho, that's a way of greeting, Aho, the sweet land of Mathura Vrindavan, where Kamsari Shri Krishna resides eternally, is very valuable and fortunate. Even the Munis and the Devatas desire to always live there. From the mouth of Lord Shiva. And that verse is also quoted by Sri Rupa Goswami in his Lagu Bhagavatamrita 1.5.433. So while I was ill, I was also able to do a little more research on the winter season in Vrindavan. I thought we'd finished with, lecture number 2, but actually I kept reading and I found out more information about winter, third part here, which I'd like to share with you today. To begin with, it's said here in Vrindavan, Ritu Raj Bhashant. Ritu Raj Bhashant. It means that spring is the king of all seasons. Krishna himself says that. Many of you may know in Bhagavad Gita 10:35, Barihat Samatata Samnam Gayatri Chandra Sam Aham Mashanam Margo Shishoham Ritunam Kushanam Akara. And I quote the Lord. Of the hymns, I am the Samaveda. I am the Brihat Sama. And of poetry, I am the Gayatri. Of months, I am Margashirsha, November, December, and of seasons, I am flower-bearing spring. And as we all know, we all know the differences between winter and spring. So we might wonder how winter, which is often very harsh and unrelenting, can be a source of joy and happiness for the divine couple. It's one of the 6 primary seasons, as we've been discussing. So usually we think of it as very harsh and unrelenting. So how can it be enjoyable for the divine couple? Of course, we shouldn't think of winter in the spiritual world like winter in the material world. In fact, one time a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I read that there is snow in the spiritual world. How can Radha and Krishna enjoy in the cold snow? So Srila Prabhupada just smiled and replied, well, in the spiritual world, the snow is warm. Something similar to the reply he gave one time when a disciple asked him, let me remember, Srila Prabhupada, are there mosquitoes in the spiritual world? And again Prabhupada smiled and he said, yes, but they don't sting, they sing. They don't sting, they sing. But of course we know that Mother Purnamasi and Vrindadevi, who arranged all these amazing pastimes in Vrindavan, they do arrange for cold weather as a stimulus for Radha and Krishna's loving affairs. As we mentioned in our first lecture on winter, the cold weather in winter usually keeps Jyotila and Kotila inside the Yavat palace, giving Radha and Krishna the liberty to freely roam the Vrindavan forests, as well as to sit together in a kunja, a little forest, while sharing a warm blanket. And it's for these reasons and more that winter in Vrindavan is actually a cause for celebration for the Brajbasis, and an opportunity, well, more important, for increased seva or service, especially for their many deities here in Vrindavan. Winter service in most Vrindavan temples, I was reading, lasts for 40 or 45 days, which includes, as we mentioned previously, the daily offering of khichdi. We spoke briefly about that, as well as offering thick woolen blankets to the many deities in the temples here. There's thousands and thousands of temples, and everyone's life revolves around these temples, and even the home temples, where everyone has their deities, or most people have deities. Everything just revolves around Krishna. Krishna is the center of Braj. So during the winter, service is increased. They make khichdi because it warms you up for the deities, and they offer nice blankets to the deities. Actually, I was reading these blankets are called gadals, Gaddal, gadals in the local language. And these blankets are all filled with cotton. And in the temples, in the winter, each day the deities are massaged with what they call warm perfumed essential oils. Warm perfumed, they take the oil, the perfume, and they warm it. Especially, there's certain oils that have a warm characteristic to them, like saffron and henna oils. They use that a lot in the winter here. And they massage the deities with these oils, these warm oils, before they bathe the deities with warm water. And after their baths, the deities are dressed in very colorful outfits, such as, hand-stuffed cotton shawls. And the deities wear special kurtals called bhagobandis. Devotees also wear bhagobandis. They're tied, kurtas tied. And the deities also wear labhada. Labhada is a long dress which is reversible and very heavy in weight. I've been to a number of temples now in the winter here, and you see these labhadas, these long dresses, very elegant looking. The deities look so beautiful in those long dresses. And when the weather gets really, really cold, like right now it's really, really cold, the pujaris also dress deities in farguls. We mentioned, I think, farguls in lecture number 2. Fargul is a type of overcoat. And in the Radharaman temple, for the entire winter months, there's actually 2 months, we'll discuss that later. For the entire winter months, devotees cannot have darshan of Radharaman's lotus feet. Why? Because in winter he wears woolen socks. I remember the first time I saw that, I went, whoa, the Lord's wearing socks. Yeah, you don't see his feet so much in winter because he's wearing socks. And in the Radharaman temple, special care is taken to keep Radharamanji's surroundings very warm with silver pots full of burning coal or sometimes wood, but generally coal. If you go to the temple, you'll see these silver pots there, and they're burning with smoke's coming out from the burning coal. And in Radharaman's temple specifically, any and all curtains are replaced with very colorful, thick ones. Other seasons you don't need thick, but in the wintertime, all the curtains in the temple are changed for very thick, very colorful curtains, also stuffed with cotton. And each day, as night approaches, again, huge blankets are offered to Radharaman so that he can sleep comfortably. And in a similar way, a little research showed, in a similar way, each night in one of the Dauji temples in Vrindavan, there's a number of Dauji. Dauji means the older brother. At Balaram, there's many Balaram temples in Vrindavan, where there's just Balaram. So one of the famous Dauji temples in Vrindavan, Dauji, Balaram, and his consort, of course, Revati, they're offered, this one temple, a giant quilt made with 75 meters of cloth and 12 kgs of cotton. That's a big quilt, because it's a big deity. I've seen that deity. And I also read that that deity, that Dauji's winter dress, is made of 56 meters of warm, colorful fabric. And his khichdi, because we were mentioning earlier in other lectures how khichdi is offered to the deities during winter specifically, and they're distributed to the pilgrims. So this particular deity of Dauji, his khichdi is made of rice and lentils, of course cooked in pure ghee, with lots of nuts and warming spices. We heard of warming oils, warming perfumes. So his khichdi is made with warming spices. Like what? Saffron, nutmeg, cloves, and pepper. You can write that down if you have deities. You make khichdi for them. It's our tradition. Our tradition is Braj. Our culture is Vrindavan, the eternal Vrindavan. So when they make a khichdi for that deity, they put in saffron, nutmeg, cloves, and pepper. And then placed on the side of the plate of khichdi, they put pickles, meaning we say achar here, pakoras, dahi, yogurt, jam, butter, and sweets. And the sweets are made with sesame seeds and jaggery. Jaggery is a pure type of sugar. Sesame seeds and jaggery. These are all really interesting facts because, all of us, deity worship is so much an integral part of our ISKCON movement. Srila Prabhupada brought this wonderful process to the Western countries. So you can offer your deities sesame seeds and jaggery sweets in these cold months. And one of the pujaris there told me at Radharaman Temple now, we're back to Radharaman Temple. At Radharaman Temple, when they make these offerings of khichdi to Radharamanji, the pujaris, they sing devotional songs with various musical instruments while Radharamanji is eating for his pleasure. And the pujari at Radharaman Temple shared with me one of those songs, the lyrics for one of those songs. So here are the lyrics. This is what Radharamanji is hearing while he's relishing the khichdi. Quote, Shrimati Radharani feeds Radharaman delicious khichdi soaked in cow ghee. They're singing this, along with fried kachoris, spicy pickle, and 4 kinds of vegetable dishes, all accompanied by papadums, wild cucumber, yogurt, and sweets. Gazing longingly into each other's lotus eyes, the divine lovers share sweet conversation, while the silver coal stove gives fragrant warmth. Isn't this beautiful? Radharaman sits on a low wooden seat and happily enjoys this delicious khichdi. When he finishes their singing, Yashoda Maya offers her very life to him in the form of arati. This is what they sing. And another temple, Radharaman Temple, Dauji. Oh yeah, I was reading that in the famous Monkey Bihari Temple, Monkey Bihari Lal Ki Jai, you hear it all over Vrindavan, one of the more popular temples, Monkey Bihari Temple. Each winter morning, Monkey Bihari specifically is offered sweet butter with saffron and saffron halava. And in the afternoon, he's offered saffron sweet rice, and in the evening, he's offered saffron milk. All these beautiful details of Braj. This is our culture. We have to imbibe this, we have to practice it. We want to be Braj Basis. We have to be like the Braj Basis to get back home, back to the spiritual world, specifically to Goloka Vrindavan. So, further research revealed that in the Dwarkadish temple in nearby Mathura, there's a beautiful Dwarkadish temple there. Each day, those deities are served saffron milk and suhag shont, which I found out is a savory made with saffron, almonds, dried ginger, and other warm ingredients. Couldn't get the whole recipe. Saffron, almonds, dried ginger, and other warm ingredients. Now, moving on, one of the more popular festivals held here in our beloved Sri Vrindavan during the winter months is in the Radha Ballabha temple, very famous temple, Radha Ballabha, where each day the deity wears different disguises. This is their way they celebrate, Radha Ballabha temple. They celebrate in the winter. Each day, Radha Ballabha, extremely beautiful deity, has these beautiful black eyes made from jewels. He wears different disguises. After Mangal Artik, they dress him in different disguises. For example, the pujaris told me, one day he may be dressed as a mango seller, selling mangoes. It's a disguise. The next day they may dress Radha Ballabha as a fruit vendor, and they say next day they'll dress him as a saki, like that. And in these moods, these different moods, the devotees meditate that Radha Ballabha, Krishna's venturing out to meet Srimati Radharani in Varshana. What a nice meditation. This is how we should fill our minds. He's venturing out to meet Radharani in Varshana. And these disguises, the idea is that these disguises help him to deceive Jatila and Kutila, who, despite the cold, may be out there searching for him once in a while, when he's with his beloved Srimati Radharani. Because he's in a disguise, they don't recognize him. Now, the pujaris there, they told me that Radha Ballabha's Khichdi is particularly famous. Everyone has their favorite deities, right? Whatever temple here, and that's your favorite deities. Radha Krishna or Krishna Balaram, Jagannath, like that, Gaurnitai. The pujaris were telling me that Radha Ballabha's Khichdi is particularly famous. And I said, why so? They say because it's made of 18 ingredients. And what are those 18 ingredients? Superfine basmati rice, mung dal, rock salt, white pepper, cumin seed, nutmeg, cloves, green and black cardamom, cinnamon, mace, bay leaves, cashew nuts, raisins, almonds, pistachio nuts, coconut, dates, and again saffron. Saffron is really important here in the wintertime. That's the nature of, that's the way that makes Radha Ballabha's Khichdi so special. And of course, they say it's enriched with a sumptuous addition of ghee. They actually have a saying here in Vrindavan, Khichdi ghee kini judi. Khichdi ghee kini judi. It means khichdi floating in ghee. Khichdi floating in ghee. And this khichdi is served to Radha Ballabha along with pickles, achar of various kinds, and also a preparation of concentrated milk and a ginger sauce. Now, there's another preparation offered to Radha Vallabha in winter that is considered a real delicacy, of which the exact recipe is a well-guarded secret. It's made from ginger, ground on a stone mortar with a stone pestle, along with, here's part of the recipe, black salt, rock salt, pomegranate seeds, black currants, black pepper, cumin seeds, and some other very tasty secret ingredients that no one except for Radha Vallabha's pujaris have knowledge of. And this preparation, loved both by the Lord and when it comes as Mahaprasadam by the devotees, has been kept a secret for 500 years. Now, technically, winter in Vrindavan actually consists of 2 months. The month of Margashirsha, which we've mentioned and quoted several times, but also the second month is called Posha. And it gets really cold, much colder in this second month of Posha. And due to the cold, during this time, I was reading, actually in the Vrindavan Research Institute, that in puja to the deities during this month of Posha, flowers are only offered on top of the deities' clothes. They put the clothes on, and then, the pujaris never directly have flowers touch the deities themselves, like on their neck or something like that, or on their hands, because the flowers are cold, because it's winter. So the flowers never touch, when in the winter the flowers never touch, so they just go on top of the clothes like that. And considering or discussing the worship of our beloved Govindaji, the deity of Srila Rupa Goswami, who we lectured on extensively several months ago, throughout this month of Posha, the deity of Govindaji, he's offered a very special dish called Keshchar Anna. Of course, we know Govindaji is in Jaipur, but they worship him as, well, in the mood of Vrindavan. And we have our Govindaji temple here in Vrindavan as well. It was original temple. So the deity of Govindaji, he's worshipped with a special dish called Keshchar Anna, which is made with 8 different types of grains. 8 different types of grains. And the pujaris in the Radha Govinda temple, they follow a book called Govinda Dwadasa Utsava Pranalika. Govinda Dwadasa Utsava Pranalika, which describes the details of rituals and ceremonies and everything, cooking, etc., to be offered to Govindaji throughout the 12 months of the year. So there's lots of details how to worship Govindaji in winter. So on the first day of Posha Purnima, the pujaris, they begin by offering a special dress to Govindaji. And this outfit, I was told, is all white and consists of shutan. Shutan is a type of tight pants with a kashchudi, a type of skirt, and a bhaga, an outer coat. In your mind you can see that he's wearing tight pants and a kind of skirt and an outer coat. You may have seen paintings like that of Krishna. And all of these different parts of his dress are embroidered with gold thread called kirana. And on that day, the first day of that month of Posha, Govindaji, Govindadev, is given a very special flower garland on top of his clothes, as we mentioned. And also a very exceptional mukut. Mukut, as many of you know, means a crown. And that crown that Govindaji wears on that day is called Mayura Mukuta. Mayura Mukuta. And actually, it has the form of a peacock feather made entirely out of gold. Mayura Mukuta, on that first day of the second month of winter. If you can go to Jaipur and see Govindaji, his crown is a gold peacock feather. And that's the only day of the year that Govinda Dev wears that ornament. Put it on your calendar. So that's some details about worshipping the deities in Sri Vrindavan Dham during the winter months here in Braj. So before concluding today, I'd like to share with all of you a wonderful winter pastime that's found in the writings of that famous medieval Vaishnava poet, the highly respected Nagari Das, who writes in his writings that once on a foggy winter afternoon, in the month of Margashirsha, the first month of winter, Krishna, this is such a beautiful pastime, Krishna asked Sri Radha, "O Radhe, what is your favorite color?" Wow. "O Radhe, what is your favorite color?" And Sri Radha replied, "My favorite color is the color of the tamal tree, the color of a dark evening cloud, the color of a dark bumblebee, the color of my coryllium, and the color of dark night." So then Krishna said, "O Radhe, you've named many colors, but they are all similar to my complexion. Why didn't you just say that my complexion is your favorite color?" So Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani, she replied, "Krishna, it is true, your complexion is my favorite color. But most of the time, when you're not with me, those colors are all that I have to remind me of you. When you leave me, my eternal friend, the pain of separation from you never leaves me. And thus, that separation always reminds me of you. Krishna, the color of that pain is blue, like a sapphire gemstone, which always adorns my head in your absence. The night comes and goes. The sun rises and sets. The moon appears and disappears. Summers leave and winters come. Everything goes and other things come. But the separation I feel from you, Krishna, never leaves me. It stays with me always. O Krishna, the green leaves of Vrindavan, where we enjoy our pastimes, also remind me of you. Therefore, green is also one of my favorite colors. The color of your dress, yellow, is printed inside of my eyes while feeling separation from you. But when my ears hear the news of your coming my way to greet me, my heart again attains peace. And that pure white peace satisfies me. Therefore, white is also one of my favorite colors. But the bliss of meeting you is not present yet in that white color. When you actually meet me and embrace me, Krishna, I see the color of love. I see the color of love, anurag, everywhere. The whole Braj becomes decorated in red, like a bride to celebrate the meeting of you and me. Therefore, I love red, the color of loving exchanges. Therefore, I love red, the color of loving exchanges. Then Srimati Radharani, she shyly said to Krishna, "And my dear Krishna, what is your favorite color?" So Krishna replied, "O doe-eyed girl, the color of your eyes, the color of your eyes is my favorite color. Let me behold your beautiful blue eyes forever." Now, Lalita Saki was standing nearby, and after listening to this whole conversation, she offered a rainbow-colored warm coat to the divine couple so that they wouldn't be disturbed by the cold winter. they shared it. Then she offered them, according to our poet Nagari, 7 colored sweets to eat. 7 colored sweets to eat. And then he says, Vrindadevi came forward and welcomed the divine couple into a kunja called Indradyumna. Indradyumna literally means Indra's bow. But his bow in this world takes the form of a rainbow. Here in India, when people see a rainbow, they call out, "Oh, just see, the Indradyumna, the bow of King Indra, Lord of Heaven." So the poet Nagari, he goes on to say, the kunja that they were in was warm from the depth of all colors and was decorated with different gemstones, this kunj. The floor was red as rubies, the pillars were like blue sapphires, the walls were green like emeralds, the gates were white as pearls, the roof was yellow like gold, and the arches black as jet stones. He writes, Ranga Bihari Krishna and Ranga Biharini, Shri Radha, started playing in this warm rainbow kunj together. And in that playful atmosphere, when the Sakhi said, hold something red, to Radha and Krishna, hold something red, the divine couple had to hold some red objects within the kunja. They had to run in. Actually, the first one who held some red object in the kunj. And when the Sakhis called out, now hold something black, the divine couple had to run and find something black in the kunj. And whoever missed the opportunity to touch such a colored object first was the loser in the game. The loser. And the poet Nagari, he writes that, quote, as was always the case, Krishna lost the game of colors. And thus Shri Radha became famous all over Vrindavan as the Queen of Divine Colors. Another name for Shri Radhika. The Queen of Divine Colors. And then our poet, Vaishnava poet Nagari, he concludes with a very, very beautiful prayer, with which I will also conclude this lecture today. He writes, quote, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, along with their Sakhis, never end. May I always live in Vrindavan, nourishing myself by eating the remnants of the sadhus there. I will decorate my body with the dust of that sacred abode and satisfy my eyes with darshan of Radha and Krishna. Each day I will drink the clear water of the Jamuna. I pray to Brajadam that in this way I can sing the glories of Kunja Nikunjas. I pray to Brajadam that in this way I can sing the glories of Kunja Nikunjas. I just love that part. I can sing the glories of Kunja Nikunjas and always live with the saints of Braja. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, the revealer of the Dham. Thank you so much, Prabhu. This was really relishable. Having been away for a couple of weeks, having been sick, to come back to this service to all of you, it's very shantushti, very satisfying to my heart. And I think our next lecture will be about spring, because after winter comes spring, and there's so many wonderful pastimes about spring. Maybe we'll get, 4 or 5 lectures about spring. So thank you so much. Glories to Prabhupada. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shamasundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Mayapurdam ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Gaur Premanandi, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe Sham.